Welcome, everybody. Doug and Aleya again. And in this session, we thought we would talk about how to be of service to others in a healthy way rather than in an unhealthy way. And Aleya, why don't you frame the problem for us?
So, a lot of the people that are drawn to empath work, emotional competency, emotional intelligence, listening, affect labeling, validating emotions, your heart is calibrated for service. And there is a part of you that wants to serve, that wants to help. And Doug and I were reflecting about that and thinking about how so often somebody that wants to help comes into the situation and does the opposite. And so I was thinking about somebody in my own life of she loves to help, really wants to make the world a better place, wants to make the campsite better, yet is critical or controlling or tells you what to do when you don't ask. And so it's this challenge of when your heart is calibrated for service, but you're serving in a way that is actually causing harm and you don't even realize it, you don't even know it. And then you wonder why nobody appreciates you. You're just showing up and you want to help. And why do they resent you? And why did they attack you? And why are they disrespecting you? Well, it's because the way in which you may have been showing up to serve was actually disempowering and disrespecting and controlling and shaming the person that you were really wanting to help. And these may be people that you really love in your life. And it's just bringing in more awareness of, okay, you want to help, your heart's calibrated for service. That's fabulous. Now, step two, awareness. How are you serving? What are the mechanisms that you're using? I'm going to turn it over to Doug to maybe talk a little bit about what are the ways that people, from your perspective, show up and serve that causes harm, and what are the ways in which we could show up and serve and be incredibly efficient, incredibly powerful, and incredibly supportive and positive.
So, the first thing that I see is that there's a problem. I'm laughing because the puppy is behind me. The first thing that I see is that people show up and they see a problem. And what they don't realize is that that problem that another person is having creates anxiety within them. And so unconsciously, they are motivated, they're propelled to soothe their own anxiety by trying to stop the problem, either by solving it or stopping it or telling it to go away. And that is a form of what we call emotional invalidation. So supposing that you've got a family member whom you're talking to on the phone and you happen to mention maybe an issue that you're facing, and all of a sudden that family member starts offering up solutions, trying to problem solve. And all of a sudden you start getting angry. Well, what's going on is that that person is not listening to you. That person is trying to soothe his or her own anxiety. And so the first and number one problem is trying to solve somebody else's problem without listening first. Offering up an opinion, a judgment, or being critical or whatever without being requested to, and then focusing on yourself rather than on the other person. So you might say, well, if I were in your position, this is what I would do.
You should do blah, blah, blah.
You should do blah, 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 blah.
Or
Right.
I was in a situation and this is what I did.
Exactly. Notice how in those statements it's all I focused. When you really want to serve somebody, you have to be you focused. And the first thing you have to be able to do is reflect the emotions of the person who's got the problem. Because until they feel validated and heard at a very deep level, they're not going to be able to receive any kind of problem solving or help because their emotions are driving their behaviors. So another
And
kind of
that's huge in and of itself, just
that
that
by
one
itself
concept.
solves probably 98% of the problems we're talking about. So if you are really going to be of service, you have to commit to not being selfish. You have to commit to learning how to manage your own anxiety around other people's upsets so that you don't react unconsciously to their upset by trying to soothe your own self, soothe your own anxiety. Because when you start soothing yourself, you are no longer serving the other people, you're serving yourself. You're selfish.
And that's a little bit of a slap, right? It's like, oh wait, I thought I was helping. I want to be of service. I love this person. I care about this person. I want to help them. But we have to really take the shift off of ourselves and onto the other person and ask, what is it that they're really needing? Not what do I need to do for that other person? What are they really needing for themselves?
And the way you get to that point is by listening. And you have to learn what to listen for. You're not listening to the words. You're listening to the underlying emotions, because the emotions are going to give you the information, the data, that's really going to be the most valuable information of all. And when you start listening to emotions instead of the words, you'll start seeing things and understanding things that will give you deep insights that will allow you to serve in a far deeper, more profound way than if you just jump in with your two bits and get everybody mad because you're not listening to them. They need to be heard more than anything else. And if you can listen to them, listen them into existence as I teach, then almost always the problem solves itself. And you have just done a tremendous service without offering up any kind of opinion or advice.
And the trick with that is to have a new skill set. So you want to serve and you want to do it in a really powerful, efficient way. But that means that you need to cultivate a tool of the emotional competency. Not emotional intelligence, but emotional competency. How to sit with your own emotions, how to recognize, witness, and validate the emotions of another.
And it turns out that we have 2 courses that teach just that. We'll put the links to the courses on the screen and also in the description below the video on YouTube. And feel free to go check these courses out, because we have found in teaching tens of thousands of people who want to serve, who have a burning desire to help other people, that when they learn how to listen to emotions, when they learn to become emotionally competent, their service goes through the roof. And they no longer face the pushback and the criticism and getting people angry and frustrated because...
And the burnout.
And the burnout, where they're sticking their nose in where it doesn't belong.
Or sticking your nose in a way that creates the tweak, right? Like it's... Ugh.
The other problem that I see very frequently is that when it's the in-law problem, right? So the in-law problem is, well, you're just doing this all wrong. And if you do, I mean, it's a judgmental, critical approach, telling people what they're doing wrong, shaming them as if they were little children. And I call it the in-law problem because this is what my clients report to me all the time, is that this is the thing that drives people crazy about their in-laws, is they come in, they drop in, see a problem, and immediately start comparing it to how they did things, which probably was a false memory anyways. And they they want to help, but what they're really doing is soothing their anxiety by criticizing and judging. Again, it's anxiety management. And the thing that's so interesting about all of this is that they're not even aware of their anxiety. If you ask them if they were anxious, they would say no. But what's really driving this is their own inner anxiety around the problem. Maybe they got triggered. Maybe when they were in the same place, they had all kinds of anxiety, and now the anxiety is getting triggered by watching somebody else have the problem. Maybe they're getting anxious because they're in the presence of upset or strong emotions. But I will absolutely guarantee you that when you start hearing the shoulds, and when I was your age, I did this, and well, you really should do it this way, the stuff that just drives everybody friggin' crazy is the person who is offering that up is, 1, not self-aware, and 2, is trying in a very inept way to manage their own anxiety. And so here's your response. Let's suppose that you are the target of an in-law moment where an in-law is being critical or judgmental or is trying to solve a problem but is doing it ineptly and is just starting to escalate the problem. Simply reflect back to them, oh, you're really anxious. You're really anxious and worried and nervous over what's going on here. And you don't feel like you're in control. And you're a little frustrated. And you don't feel appreciated or respected. And it makes you a little sad. And you don't feel loved. Just that. Just the way I said it. Go back and watch this again and memorize that. And that will completely change the dynamic of the relationship.
And if you get anxious thinking about saying all those words, try just one sentence instead of 8.
Right. You're anxious. Oh, you're really anxious.
And that's it. Just stop at that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Aleya? On top
Yeah. The other piece that I want to add is that in order to move to a different level, you first have to have awareness. And so just for the next week, and we can pick this up next week, but for the next week, just start becoming more aware of when you are in the presence of another person and you feel in your heart, oh, I want to make it better. I want to help them shift. I want to help them be in a healthier way of being, a healthier behavior. Okay, so that's your heart wanting to help. And pause, 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 and ask yourself, I want to help them. What is a different way that I could help them than the way I have been helping them? Because the way that you have been helping them may not have been working, might have been doing harm, the opposite of what you've been intending. So awareness is number 1. Pause is number 2. Number 3 is ponder how you could help them in a different way. And step 4 would be ask yourself, what do they really need? What do they really want that has nothing to do with what I want for them? And then you can also bring in that piece of the validating their emotions and just say, you're really anxious. It makes you really happy to play your video games. It's really soothing to you, instead of get off your video games. Or it's really upsetting to you that they're treating you this way, as opposed to, oh, you should just do this. So do a 4-step process. The awareness, I want to help. Number 2, pause. Number 3, how could you help them in a different way than you have been? And number 4, what's the need? And number 5, validate the emotions that they're in, that you don't need to fix. Emotions are not about fixing. Emotions are there to allow for a process. And what we need more than anything is for someone to just hold a space for us to have an emotional experience.